Candlewick on Brilliance Audio presents The Dollar Kids by Jennifer Richard Jacobson, performed by Andrew Iden. Lowen was an artist. At 3, he drew big fat heads with spindly arms and legs. At 4, he drew vehicles, trucks and buses, but mostly police cars with lights on top. He already knew to surround the lights with sun rays to indicate flashing. By his 6th birthday, he preferred drawing people and animals, especially giraffes, in action. And by 8, he'd draw pretty much anything on demand. But from 8 to 11, things changed. Lowen spent every spare moment drawing comics. He loved the way a simple line, an arrow for a nose, for example, was all that was needed to convey the whole of a person, and how you hardly needed any words at all if the panel was drawn well. Whereas a picture or a portrait shows you everything, comics let you imagine other worlds filled with action and victory. Comics promised stories. When Abe died, part of Lowen died too. For months he couldn't sketch anything at all. He tried to return to the comics he'd been working on, but the minute he picked up the pencil, Abe's voice, with imagined comments, questions, and suggestions, cut through his brain and strangled his heart. It wasn't until months later, while lying in bed, casting about for ways to keep himself awake to avoid the nightmares, that he began to picture a new comic. Panel by panel, he imagined the day Abe was killed. The panels came clearly, logically, like a movie in his mind, without extra thoughts or voices. While his older brother Clem was at basketball practice the next day, Lowen stole to their room and began to draw the comics he'd imagined. From then on, it was the only thing he'd allow himself to draw, and then only privately. He'd chosen a new sketchbook — he always got 1 or 2 as birthday gifts — for the Abe comics, as he'd come to think of them, and he stored them between the mattress and the box spring at the end of his bed. He didn't tell anyone about them. How could he? He couldn't admit that he'd been the one to send Abe to the store. Not to his parents, not to his brother and sister, not to Mrs. Siskin, Abe's mother. Not to the counselor who insisted on playing a gazillion games of Battleship to earn his trust. When you can't trust yourself to do the right thing, you certainly can't trust others. The comics helped. He no longer felt choked by the guilt, but they did nothing to ease the sadness that quivered in his gut like a venomous snake, ready to spring at any moment. He turned himself into one of his comic book zombies so as not to wake the slithering thing that nested inside him, drifting through his classes, zoning out during lunch and recess. And then he discovered the dollar houses. He'd gone down to the lobby to retrieve the mail, and there was Dad's New Yorker magazine. His father had canceled his subscription years ago, but they kept on sending it anyway, which made the magazine seem mysterious and fun. Out of habit, he flipped through the magazine, searching for the cartoons that he often didn't understand but liked studying anyway, and his eyes rested on the title of a brief article: "Homes for Sale, $1 and Heaps of Sweat." Such a thing seemed impossible, so when he finally reached the 4th floor, elevator broken again, he'd perched on the couch and read the whole thing. Apparently lots of cities had tried this plan, and now a little town called Millville was doing the same. They were selling 5 completely run-down houses for $1 each. He couldn't tell much about the town from the article, just that it had been a mill town. The mill had shut down, and now the town was trying to save itself by bringing in new businesses and increasing the number of kids in their school. No matter, it seemed like an inviting place. It seemed like the kind of place that had never heard of the shooting at Giorgio's grocery. It seemed like a way out. If they moved, he wouldn't have to walk past the Siskins' door every day. He would no longer be tricked into thinking that Abe was going to pop out at any minute. He would no longer have to hear Mrs. Siskin crying.